And now, Knock 2 Studios presents Common Censored.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Common Censored. That's Time's Person of the Year ringing the bell, the starting bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Welcome back, all of you censored commoners. Thanks for being here. I'm Lord Sterling, and this is episode 299. Kari Lake, nominated as director of Voice of America. Daniel Penny speaks out, possibly going to sue the New York DA over malicious prosecution. LFG, let's do it. IG Horowitz report has been released mentioning 26 undercover FBI in the January 6th crowd. And I don't know if that part about Johnson releasing the January 6th tapes is actually accurate. Let me delete that from the thing right there. Boop, there we go. That's better. maybe not happen. I see it being reported some places, but it seems like fake news. So forget that was ever there. Make sure to join us Monday through Friday, 6:45 p.m.-ish Eastern Time as we cover all the crazy clown world clusterfuck chaos on the Who's Fucking Us Today show. Use hashtag Common Censored and hashtag InfoInfantry when you share the broadcast. One share equals one mission completed for the Common Censored Info Infantry, earning you an enlisted rank in the branch of your choice. You can find us on X at Lord Sterling _. Thanks to our new followers over on Rumble. We have officially crossed over 1,400 followers. Thank you, guys. If you're new to this show, smash that follow button, share it with your friends. Links to all of the articles, videos, content, etc. that we covered today will be posted down in the video description on Rumble following the termination of the broadcast. So if you're watching this later on, you can hop down there, find the topics that interest you. Mama Mac will be adding some timestamps so you'll know what portion of the show to go to hear the topics that you want to hear covered. Thanks, Mama Mac. Throw Mama Mac some love over at alplama.com, your new herbal health guru. Avoid the petrochemical pharmaceutical industry that wants you sick and dependent and dead, probably. And grab some natural tinctures to help remedy your ailments. If you want to support the show directly, you can hit up our link tree at Common Censored. Disclaimer. Views expressed on Common Censored are only opinions. Assume everything we say is false and research for yourself. We're not giving medical, legal, or financial advice. The only advice we are giving is think for yourself. Question authority. Think for yourself. Question authority. Boom! All right, guys, let's jump into the news. So, we got Trump over here ringing the bell at the beginning of the stock market today. Chance of USA breakout as President Trump rings the opening bell at New York Stock Exchange. Even Jim Cramer's asshole is stunned. Let's check it out. There he is at the New York Stock Exchange, surrounded by allies, doing his thing. America is so back. Business is back. Trump was named Time's Person of the Year and rang the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange today on Thursday. Here's the cover page for the issue of Time that'll be coming out December 30th, it looks like. Great picture. I like the upward angle, like we're looking up to him, making him look larger than life. Cool pose. Good 1,000-yard gaze from his eyes. Gotta love it. That's right, Jay Monty. Respect Trump's authority. Respect his authority. So we watched this video as Trump, flanked by his beautiful supermodel wife, Melania, rings the opening bell. And then the video continues.
This really signifies
here.
Business is back.
It
Business
does.
is open. It's so anti-business the last 4 years.
Yes.
The fact that you have CEOs on the floor there welcoming him in a much different way, I think, than they did back in 2016, really signals people are ready for business in America to be open.
Thanks, B. Love you.
USA,
Yep.
USA. That's the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, the cathedral of capitalism, ladies and gentlemen.
And by the way,
They
Stuart,
love it.
and you probably know this, they all wear the American flag on the side of their trading jackets.
They do.
It's an incredible, as Lauren said,
Jeremy!
an incredibly proud
Good to
group
see
of
ya.
Americans.
Boom. Boom. Chanting USA. Incredible moment at the New York Stock Exchange. Look how excited people look. This is great. This is great. Even Jim Cramer with a smile on his face. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Beautiful architecture. Just as a sidebar, look at the detail on this I don't know what these structures would be called here, but damn, really cool. Kramer was just stunned at the diversity of representation of American business present at the opening bell on Thursday. And like that TV show Arcane, diversity is great when it's natural, when they're not shoving it in your face with quotas and making it the whole purpose of things. When it happens naturally, it's good, it's beautiful, it's great.
A nice showing, geographically easy for them to get here.
And just
which is
optically,
helpful.
Jim, sort of a show of force of American business.
No, I mean, yeah, this is, I have to tell you, I can't, I'm trying to remember when I've seen such an agglomeration of people.
Never.
No.
I don't think we've ever seen this.
No, and these are people, by the way, all walks of business. This is not tech and it's not financial. I mean, we have Brian Cornell from Target.
Yeah, the molding underneath the balcony, the pieces that come out to hold up the balcony, really cool. Really cool. Recall that Jim Cramer claimed Kamala Mamala would win the election and be better for stocks. Basically, anything Jim Cramer says, you do the opposite. There's the inverse Jim Cramer stock trading bot, I think, that you can get that'll just do trades based on everything the opposite that Jim Cramer says. And I think it actually outperforms Nancy Pelosi, which is unreal. How is this dude still given a platform after being so wrong about so many things? Just crazy. He was so excited that he would have crawled over broken glass to get to Trump today, saying, quote, I think you're going to see some very good days ahead. A lot of incentives are going to be given. That's right. Incentives to bring business back here. Incentives to start new businesses. It's going to be awesome.
All right. Here we go.
Oh my God.
Absolutely. What do you have to say to the American investor in this country?
Well, I think you're going to see some very good days ahead. A lot of incentives are going to be given. You saw yesterday a $1 billion investment, and we gave you very fast approvals. Nobody's come up with that one yet, although it seems pretty simple. I think you're going to have some great days ahead. We have to
Hey, Tulip.
conclude a couple of bad wars that are going on. A lot of bad things
There
are
you go,
going
Wood
on,
Geek.
but we'll get them done.
Do you think that we are in a situation where
Heck,
business
Joe
will
in
be
the
far
house.
more embraced under you than currently?
Well, I don't want to really knock current, but I will tell you more than at any time, anywhere in the history of our country.
Oh man, that was funny. Well, I don't really want to knock current, but yes, we're the best ever that ever has been. So fucking good. We're not specifically dissing Joe Biden, we're dissing all of them. They all sucked. We're going to do better than anyone's ever done before. It's going to be tremendous. Kramer was like an excited puppy as he approached President Trump's Treasury Secretary nominee, Scott Bessent. What we're going to see from President Trump is Wall Street can win and Main Street can win. Everybody can do great. Scott Bessent told Kramer, yes.
What do you want to tell the Americans? What do you want to tell
That's what Jones calls a 360 win. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game where one party wins and they crush the other party as a result. We can all win. And that's what's going to happen with the trade the trade deals too. You know, he's using tariffs, and people are like, "Oh, tariffs are going to ruin our country." The whole point of the tariffs is to be used as a trade negotiation tool to leverage countries into creating fair trade again. The goal is to not have to use the tariffs at all by restoring fair trade, and so with that, both countries benefit out of their trade deals. Right now, we're getting screwed. The what's his face said. The guy who ran for president in the 90s, the giant sucking sound, Ross Perot. Yeah, we're getting money stolen from every angle from countries all around the world with these deals that send more money overseas than comes back. So tariffs are just a vehicle to leverage people into getting back to reality and to doing fair trade deals. So hopefully we won't even need the tariffs when all this stuff comes down. But that's just the goal. 360 win where both parties can benefit, and we don't have to screw one side for the benefit of the other. Let's jump to our next topic, as IG Horowitz has released a new report covering January 6th, claiming the FBI had 26 confidential human sources at the U.S. Capitol. There's video and photos of government operatives and cutouts. My guess is that it's a lot more than 26. A lot more. That's right, J. Monty. Ross Perot made a lot of sense. He should have been president, man. He should have been president. He knew what was going on. They claimed that he was crazy and cuckoo and a nut job, just like Ron Paul, man. But it was bullshitachen. I think my aunt used to live like 2 doors down from Ross Perot, or maybe a door down. I can't remember, but R.I.P. Ross Perot. Giant sucking sound, giant ears. That dude knew what was up. So let's check out this IG report. Look at him launching explosives into the crowd. I was not right up here in this area on that day, if you're wondering. Inspector General David Horowitz released his much anticipated January 6th report on Thursday. Here's the full report linked in this article. It'll be down in the video description after the show if you want the full 88-page document, a review of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's handling of its confidential human sources and intelligence collections efforts in the lead up to January 6, 2021, electoral certification. It's been widely reported that the violence would not have taken place or reached the fever pitch that it did if Nasty Nancy had brought in the National Guard as President Trump requested. The IG report released today, the DOJ admits to 26, quote, confidential human sources, previously sidestepped by Christopher Wray, who would not answer any questions about this in congressional hearings, who were working that day inside the Trump protest at the U.S. Capitol. We've seen Capitol Police undercover also telling people, push forward, climb, exactly, Jay Monty. It's totally entrapment, in my opinion. They were there as instigators. They intentionally prevented the National Guard from coming. They intentionally had people placed in the crowd to instigate. They had the Capitol Police on the building, launching explosives, rubber bullets, and tear gas to instigate the crowd. They wanted the riot. Otherwise, you wouldn't be launching explosives into crowds of peaceful people trying to activate and agitate them. The report ignored how undercover employees were also at the U.S. Capitol. How many? The IG report ignored how many undercover employees were also at the U.S. Capitol that day, probably inside, like Clay Higgins has talked about, and like Ray refused to answer. Did you have FBI agents dressed as MAGA inside the building? That was so legendary. According to the report, the DOJ admitted that 4 entered the U.S. Capitol for their agents and 13 entered the restricted area. This is very likely inaccurate. Yeah, there's probably way more. Via Julie Kelly, in addition to these 3 confidential human sources, we found that 23 other FBI confidential human sources were in D.C. on January 6th in connection with the events planned for January 6th. None of these FBI confidential human sources were authorized to enter the Capitol or a restricted area, or to otherwise break the law on January 6th, nor was any confidential human source directed by the FBI to encourage others to commit illegal acts on January 6th. Sure. I'm calling bullshit on that. We determined that of the 26 confidential human sources who were in D.C. on January 6 in connection with the events of January 6, 4 entered the Capitol during the riot. An additional 13 entered the restricted area around the Capitol, which was a security perimeter established in preparation for the January 6 electoral certification. And if you were getting to the Capitol anytime after Donald Trump finished his speech, those barriers were just obliterated, just gone, completely gone. And 9 of these confidential human sources entered a restricted area. Neither entered a restricted area nor entered the Capitol or otherwise engaged in illegal activity. None of the confidential human sources who entered the Capitol or a restricted area has been prosecuted to date. Interesting. I wonder if Ray Epps is one of these. Just speculating. Mr. Epps, don't launch a lawsuit, although my bet is that you were part of this. The WFO did not know that a total of 26 confidential human sources would be in D.C. for the events of January 6 because only 4 field offices had informed the WFO or FBI headquarters that confidential human sources under the relevant field field office's jurisdiction, 5 in total, would be traveling to D.C. on January 6. What the hell's the WFO? You guys know? Let me know in the chat. OIG, Office of Inspector General, determined that many of these 26 confidential human sources had provided information relevant to the January 6 electoral certification before the event, and that a few confidential human sources also provided information about the riot as it occurred. In addition, FBI field offices collected confidential human source reporting relevant to the January 6 electoral certification from confidential human sources who did not travel to D.C. for the event. Okay. Among the information confidential human sources provided to their handling agents was the following. A confidential human source was in contact with leadership for the Oath Keepers. Quote, extremist members of the Oath Keepers or groups may have become involved in unplanned violent activity on January 6, unquote. And third, the Oath Keepers, quote, contingent headed to D.C. is 200 plus strong. Oath Keepers are the tits. Any FBI agents that infiltrated them are asshole, but I like Stuart Rhodes. I like not the FBI. I like the I like the Oath Keepers. I've liked them since like 2008. Man, they've been around. They've been cool. The Gateway Pundit has reported on numerous confirmed intelligence operatives and quote cutouts who had infiltrated the Trump crowd on January 6, 2021. When the DOJ admits to 26 undercover operatives working inside the crowd that day, they are not including the many dozens or hundreds of, quote, cutouts who were operating inside the enormous crowd that day. That's what I'm saying. There was one thing with Clay Higgins where they speculated that there were at least 126 or something. I don't remember exactly the details, but there was a lot, I'm sure. It's safe to say January 6 was the largest organized government setup targeting a specific political party in U.S. history. Here's one active duty FBI colleague, number 2, former FBI liaison to Capitol Police, John Guandolo, pictured here. The FBI agents infiltrating the crowd of Trump supporters on January 6, 2021. FBI later admitted they lost track of how many operatives they'd embedded in the crowd that day. Bullshit! Bullshit! You don't lose track of that. Oh, thanks, Donna. WFO. Washington Field Office, the Washington FBI Field Office. Thank you. The House Administration Committee released footage in March from camera 7231 on January 6, 2021. The video showed a man described as an active duty FBI colleague of former FBI liaison to Capitol Police Officer John Guandolo. The FBI is seen clapping his hands and agent is seen clapping his hands and saying, "This is huge," as protesters ran up the east steps of the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Footage was published by Free State Will right here. Let's hop over to X so we can read his thing here. The House Admin Committee has now released camera 7231 that shows a man described as an active duty colleague of former FBI liaison to Capitol Police John Guandolo clapping and saying, "This is huge," as protesters ran up the steps January 6th. I made this as a sealed exhibit. It's synchronized audio from Guandolo's own recording to the CCTV. Now it's... So it starts off with no sound, but then the sound does show up. There they are.
Oh man, this is huge.
So annoying, man. Just knowing that it was all a setup, it's so frustrating. It's like it was the best day ever until it was the worst day ever. We walked right into a trap. So messed up. So Free State Will has filed a motion to compel the government to identify these dudes. Full motion linked in his tweet. They lost count of how many there were. There were at least 20 confirmed and documented incidents involving dozens of feds, FBI agents, and state operatives leading the charge and embedded in the crowd on January 6th. Ray Epps, possibly. Dozens, if not hundreds, of government operatives infiltrated the protests. Below is an ever-expanding list of government operatives the Gateway Pundit and others identified working inside the massive Trump crowd at the U.S. Capitol. Gateway Pundit continues to add to the list as they learn more about the planned and choreographed Fedsurrection. Incident 1. The FBI infiltrated the Proud Boys, and their informant exonerated the Proud Boys of any conspiracy. That's right, we love the Proud Boys too. Proud Boys kick ass. In July 2022, Gateway Pundit contributor Kara Castronova, the boxer, she must have lost that New York election, unfortunately. Let me know in the chat if you know. But she was running for office. She released whistleblower documents, text messages, and audio transcripts of FBI informant James Knowles' communication with his FBI handlers on January 6th. The evidence exonerates Trump supporters and the Proud Boys of any conspiracy or planning to storm the U.S. Capitol, to enter the U.S. Capitol, or to overthrow the proceedings. That's right. March peacefully and patriotically. So here's Kara Castronova's report. They all lied, and we have proof. Highly sensitive DOJ January 6 documents leaked to the Gateway Pundit. FBI confidential human source infiltrated Proud Boys, ran FBI operation on January 6th, reported they were innocent. Uh-oh. The FBI had the evidence that there was no conspiracy all along or plans made by the Proud Boys and others to invade and take control of the Capitol. The FBI ignored this information from their own operative. Isn't that what's called like a Brady rule violation, where you don't bring forth exonerating evidence into trials and stuff? They ran with lies about an insurrection instead. Incident 2. FBI was recruiting men and women to infiltrate the crowds and work as operatives prior to January 6th. Remember, they went to this Green Beret's house, Jeremy Brown, and tried to get him to infiltrate, and he kicked him off his property and was like, fuck you. Crazy stuff there. Incident 3. FBI wiretapped friends and family members, including children, the kinders, to spy on January 6th parents. That's fucking crazy. So subversive. In Incident 4, Luke Robinson, a.k.a. Ginger Gun, the armed J6 protester with the earpiece, dropped from FBI's most wanted list, the only guy that had a gun there at all, except for the crowd of people who got, they were walking down the street, and the Capitol Police on the bikes came up to them, and they're like, "Are you guys armed?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're undercover cops." Basically, they pulled out their badges. This was the other dude who had a gun, allegedly. And he got removed from the list. So is he some kind of confidential human source or something? Incident 5, at least 20 undercover FBI and ATF operatives and 3 undercover police officers were running operations in the crowd on January 6th. FBI finally admitted in September 2021 to the New York Times that they were running informants and operatives inside groups attending the rallies. In fact, one of the first, quote, protesters inside the U.S. Capitol was an FBI informant leading the charge. Yeah, Jay Monty, Lieutenant Byrd, he came out the other day. I have an article about it that we never got to, where he's apparently demanding a pardon from Joe Biden and threatening to expose something January 6th related if he does not get a pardon. So that's interesting. And I do have your article, Monty, that you posted about Joe Biden commuting and pardoning a fuck ton of people. We'll get to that in a second, too. But what a surprise! There's also evidence that the U.S. Capitol Police were also running informants and operatives inside the Trump crowd, including members who entered the U.S. Capitol with the protesters. Remember, there's that body cam footage of them encouraging protesters to climb the scaffolding, go, 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 etc. And then Incident 6, Ray Epps. Is he a Fed? Well, hopefully we find out. Incident 7, disappearing Feds from the FBI list, female protester Megan Paradise. Another J6 infiltrator disappeared from the list. This whole thing is so messed up. Why has the FBI not followed up on several violent protesters who were caught on video? Agents, allegedly, of course. Incident 8, DOJ finally admits they were running confidential human sources inside the Oath Keepers. Incident 9, former DEA agent was pressured to go inside the U.S. Capitol on January 6th by an informant, quote, friend he was with. That's entrapment. That's straight up entrapment. Former DEA agent tells Tucker that his informant friend invited him to the Capitol on January 6th, pressured him to go inside. So they're even bringing people to the Capitol. Incident 10, FBI admitted November 2022 that they were running at least 8 informants inside the Proud Boys in the months leading to January 6th. FBI needs to be obliterated. Obliterated. There's no justification, even for their existence at this point, in my opinion. Get rid of them. Start something completely new with people that we can trust who will actually uphold the law. Looking forward to seeing what Kash Patel does to rip this corrupt organization out, apart, root and stem. Was the FBI leading the insurrection? Seems like it. Seems like it. So there's a lot more incidents of sketchy stuff over here throughout the article. If you want to check it out, the link to the full thing will be in the description. Explore it all, and let me know what you guys think. Let's jump over to Monty's article. Biden, I almost said Bonty. That'll be... I'm losing my mind already. Biden commutes roughly 1,500 sentences and pardons 39 people in biggest single-day act of clemency. Holy balls, biggest single-day act of corruption. More like it. I saw a couple things that Crazy B had sent to me. Looks like one of these individuals was a convicted sex offender, a Chinese individual or something. Crazy stuff. AP reporting. President Joe Biden is commuting the sentences of roughly 1,500 people who were released from prison and placed on home confinement during the coronavirus pandemic, and is pardoning 39 Americans convicted of nonviolent crimes. It's the largest single-day act of clemency in modern history. The commutations announced Thursday are for people who have served out home confinement sentences for at least 1 year after they were released. Prisons were uniquely bad for spreading the virus, and some inmates were released in part to stop the spread. At one point, 1 in 5 prisoners had COVID-19, according to a tally kept by the Associated Press. Allegedly, it was probably just flu, because the flu disappeared that year, and they counted all the flu cases as coronavirus. We can't really talk about that on YouTube. Allegedly, of course. Biden said he would be taking more steps in the weeks ahead and would continue to review clemency petitions. Second largest single-day act of clemency was by, oh, what a shocker, Barack Hussein with 330. That's like 1/5 of the number that Biden is doing. Shortly before leaving office in 2017, quote, America was built on the promise of possibility and second chances, Biden said in a statement. As president, I have the great privilege of extending mercy to people who have demonstrated remorse and rehabilitation, restoring opportunity for Americans to participate in daily life and contribute to their communities, taking steps to remove sentencing disparities for nonviolent offenders, especially those convicted of drug offenses. Drugs are bad, okay? These fucking communist sicks. For real! Hopefully YouTube gets obliterated as well. Let's see what we got next on the list. Actually, let's hop over since Crazy B sent me a couple things. Here's one of them. Thank God Biden's on his way out, Crazy B says. Make sure to follow Crazy B on X at CrazyB8383 and also on YouTube at Game Like a Mom. She continues, hopefully someone that corrupt will never be president again. Reposting I meme, therefore I am at I'm meme 0. Meet Rita Crundwell. Crundwell was sentenced to almost 20 years for committing the largest municipal fraud in U.S. history, embezzling nearly $54 million from the small city of Dixon, Illinois. Today, Biden granted Crundwell clemency.
You completely pull the wool over her town's eyes.
Do you think you were just smarter than everybody else, Rita?
$53+ million is just unbelievable.
She lived quite a life, totally different life than what she portrayed here.
Figures that these are the type of people that Joe Biden is commuting their sentences, considering this is allegedly the type of stuff that he does.
By day, she's wearing municipal clothes, and by night, she's dripping with jewels and furs.
World champion Rita Crundwell.
She had this grand, high-stakes horse empire.
My first thought was, Dixon has that much money? That you could embezzle that much money from a little tiny place like this?
People just trusted her so well, more than anything.
Rita, how did you go to bed and not think, whose lives I'm infecting here?
One of the things the FBI wanted to find out was, did she do this alone? Was she hiding for somebody else?
For 20 years, I worked side by side with this woman, and I never knew her. I never really knew her.
That's how psychopaths operate. All the Queen's horses. Crazy. Crazy, crazy bee. And she says, did you see this one? Reposting Andy, no. One of the 3 Chinese nationals given a commutation by Biden is a man convicted of child sex crimes. Jin Shanlin, who has CCP family ties, was convicted of possessing and distributing over 600 images and videos of child abuse, including video of an infant. Joe Biden pardoned this, or commuted this guy's sentence. Biden releases Chinese prisoner arrested with 47,000 child sex abuse images, according to the title of this article from the Post Millennial. I'll add these links to the video description so you guys can get these too if you want. Fucking what the hell, man? An FBI agent testified that his family was, quote, connected to influential members of the Communist Party in China. Well, so is Joe. Joe's connected to him as well. They don't call him China Joe for nothing. So this is insane. You do not commute people with child sex abuse convictions. This is obscene. Obscene. So thanks for sharing that, Crazy Bee. It's horrible, but it's good to know. Let's see what we got next. Daniel Penny speaking out after his acquittal. He may sue the Manhattan DA for malicious prosecution. This is what I like to see. He seems like such a chill dude, man. It's such a tragedy. Daniel Penny has made his first public comments. This is from Zero Hedge, posted, of course, by Tyler Durden. I want you to hit me as hard as you can, right? Made his first public comments after being acquitted on charges of manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide in the May 2023 death of Jordan Neely on a New York city subway. Let's check out some of this video. Just in, Daniel Penny says he has zero regrets, says he couldn't live with the guilt if someone was hurt on the subway by Jordan Neely. Penny's an even better person than I thought, says Colin Rugg, at Colin Rugg on X, Colin with 2 L's, Rugg with 2 G's. The Marine said he would do 1 million court appearances if it meant saving someone on the subway. Wow. This dude's badass.
I mean, I'm not a confrontational person. I don't really extend myself. I think this type of thing is very uncomfortable. All this attention.
Right, that's your brother, Monty.
Very uncomfortable. And I would prefer without it. I didn't want any type of attention or praise, and I still don't. Mm-hmm. The guilt I would have felt if someone did get hurt, if he did do what he was threatening to do, would never be able to live with myself. And I'll take 1 million court appearances and people calling me names and people hating me just to keep one of those people from getting hurt.
true to form, man. This is a Marine. This is not your average, everyday human. He's willing to go overseas and fight and die for Americans. 1 million court appearances, nothing. Compared to that, Daniel Penny is a patriot and a hero.
Killed. I mean, I'm not a confrontational person. I don't really extend myself. And like this type of thing is very uncomfortable.
Let's jump back to the article. There's more videos. The medical examiner's conclusion that Neely died from, quote, compression of the neck was a key point in the trial, with Penny's defense challenging the finding. Skip ahead to the next video. As Daniel Penny announces that his lawyers have announced, Daniel Penny and his lawyers have announced that they're considering suing the corrupt Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg as asshole for malicious prosecution. Bragg was also caught colluding with the medical examiner during the trial, allegedly. Let's hop over to X and check out the video as Nick Sortor, at Nick Sortor, says, sue him into the Stone Age, Daniel. I agree.
Malicious persecution. Good for that.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's talk to Daniel Penny's attorney. Stephen Razor joins us right now. Stephen, congratulations. Good morning to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you as well.
So we saw you yesterday. We were running the video of you and Danny and another attorney at the Stone Street Tavern after his acquittal. I know you've got the attorney-client privilege, but tell us what you guys were talking about. I mean, is there one thing that he said to you that you thought, wow, that's cool?
Well, the relief he felt, and that other attorney, by the way, is Thomas Kniff. Partner Razor and Kniff. And, Danny, for us, it became more than just a case, right? So we're trying to take care of Danny and make sure that he's treated fairly in a system that was geared to prosecute him maliciously in a manner in which was not supported by the evidence. And there was other motivations at play here. So Danny's saying that he's relieved. That was the best thing that I could ever hear because the amount of stress that he's been under for the past year and a half has been tremendous.
Stephen, you're correct. It was a malicious prosecution. But I got to ask you about this lawsuit that y'all may go against him with, because at one point, when they tried to get some consolation charge against Daniel, the jury struck it down. But the judge agreed with you that it wasn't really the right process to go by, but still allowed it to happen.
Yeah, well, he did. I mean, he actually made sure it happened. So for whatever reason, so I can't get into the mind of the judge, right? But what I do know is that it was based on the application of the district attorney's office. And just like Danny said in his interview, it was like they wanted to try and get him on something. They knew they weren't going to be able to get him, so they had to get rid of that top count in order to get to that second count, just in the hopes that maybe they could pull out a win here. And they were unsuccessful, thank God.
Yeah,
I think the difficult thing for me, I think about his family. I'm a mom. I think about his mom, his sisters. So this happens. He's acquitted. He's free. But now there's other lawsuits. The one from Jordan Neely's father, who suddenly appeared out of the woodwork. But you're now you're contemplating this malicious prosecution. How does this work? Who exactly are you going? Is this against Alvin Bragg? Who does this actually go against?
Well, it goes against Alvin Bragg for the way in which he handled this case and the ethical lines that were blurred. The medical examiner's office, Chief Graham, for his involvement in this case. I mean, the record was made fairly clear as to the extent of his involvement in what occurred here. He was appointed by Mayor Adams, same political party as Alvin Bragg. There was collusion there. And I mean, the collusion began from the very beginning of this case and all the way through. The district attorney needed the medical examiner and needed the medical examiner to act quickly. And he did just that.
So.
Boom. I don't know if Penny mentioned it in the clip that I played of him, but he did say that they're considering suing Bragg for malicious prosecution himself as well. I got a little distracted looking at comments and updating the show notes while the video of Mr. Penny, the Marine, was playing. But I say sue them into oblivion. Sue them into oblivion. We also have Chris Wray announcing his resignation as FBI director, effective on January 20th, I guess. That's what it seems
After
like to me.
weeks of careful thought, I've decided the right thing for the Bureau is for me to serve until the end of the current administration in January and then step down. After weeks.
Boom. So he'll be in there till January 20th. Here's Trump's response to this. The resignation of Christopher Wray is a great day for America, as it will end the weaponization of what has become known as the United States Department of Injustice, at least of the FBI section. I just don't know what happened to him. We will now restore the rule of law for all Americans. Just like Jim Cramer said, it's not just Wall Street that's going to benefit, Main Street is going to benefit too. We're restoring the rule of law for all Americans. Under the leadership of Christopher Wray, the FBI illegally raided my home without cause, worked diligently on illegally impeaching and indicting me, and has done everything else to interfere with the success and future of America. They've used their vast powers to threaten and destroy many innocent Americans, some of which will never be able to recover from what has been done to them. Kash Patel is the most qualified nominee to lead the FBI in the agency's history and is committed to helping ensure that law, order, and justice will be brought back to our country again and soon. As everyone knows, I have great respect for the rank and file of the FBI, and they have great respect for me. They want to see these changes every bit as much as I do, but more importantly, the American people are demanding a strong but fair system of justice. Trump is good with the commas, man. He's good with the commas. We want our FBI back, comma, and that will now happen. I look forward to Kash Patel's confirmation so that the process of making the FBI great again can begin. Thank you. So good. So good. Can't wait. So he better have, hopefully Kash Patel's ready to go on day one, because if not, we're probably going to get stuck with this dude, Paul Abadi, who is sketchy as well. He was on the January 6th FBI Color Revolution email. He should be fired and investigated and not be turned into acting director. The researcher at listen_to learn posted this. This article tells you that the FBI knew what the fake January 6th, quote, insurrection, unquote, was really about, as they shared it amongst themselves. They also know that every person charged with the crime was done so simply to send a message, no matter the damage done to the people's lives. It's all political. Paul Craig Roberts wrote this article about these emails going back and forth between these scumbags. You can read all the details if you want. Link will be in the description. He continues, the article is exactly right. The fake, quote, insurrection, unquote, and the continued targeting of Trump is to destroy him and everyone who is against a one-world totalitarian government. We must dismantle the federal government and the national security state and return it all to a constitutional system that is accountable to we the people. Enough is enough. Could not agree more. The researcher. So these will all be available. Link in the description after the show if you want to check out the details. We can watch this clip, I think, which sums it up here.
Deputy Director Paula Bates starts as the deputy in February of 21. So the month after.
Enjoy, Wendy.
That very same month, and this is in an affidavit we provided to the Inspector General a year ago from a different whistleblower, but that very same month, a Bate comes in and says, on a call with all of the FBI management, every field officer, special agent in charge, for most of them, they'd have their ASACs in there, assistant special agent in charge. There's headquarters folks in there. He says on there, I'm hearing that a lot of people are questioning the FBI's response to this, and I'm here to tell you, if you don't like how we handled January 6th or our investigations, our response to that, you shouldn't be working the FBI.
Yeah.
Max, if you want.
Whenever I hear SAC, special agent in charge, makes me think of ASAC Schrader. You guys know what I'm talking about, Breaking Bad.
If people have questions, have them come to me. And so, as our affidavits there says, from that whistleblower. He says he's never seen a direct threat like that any other time out of hundreds of director video conferences. It was feeling and personal, communicating clearly there'd be consequences for anyone that questioned his direction. And so that whole year, kind of the chain of FBI leadership, and there's a lot of turnover in these high-level FBI positions, but the people that come into place, you just end up with this real alignment that all of them share this view that if you don't toe this very specific line on how the FBI should have responded to January 6th, including you can't question, right, whether the FBI should have been more aggressive in response to riots across the United States in the summer of 2020, right? That's one of the things they say, no, you can't question how we responded to this. And so that's what puts people on the flag for this kind of security clearance action.
Right, and then
so Paul Abate's number 2 at the FBI. I mean, the deputy director of the FBI, much more so even than the director. And so you have the guy who runs the place, who can.
Don't forget, Billdozer 74 will be going live tonight, 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern Time, doing what we do here, covering the crazy clown world, clusterfuck, chaos. So make sure to subscribe to Billdozer 74 on Rumble and join the Dozer Den. After our show tonight, we will be raiding Billdozer at the end of our show. Thanks again for being here, Bill.
Who can overrule normal personnel procedures and just put someone in a job if he wants them there, or can take them out of a job if he wants to, right? You have that person sending the signal to all the people below him, dissent on this issue will not be tolerated.
Right, and aggressively. I mean, you guys wrote it in here. You say that Abate, I always call him Abate on the show. I don't know why, but I like Abate. But Abate, if that's his name.
Too, but it's Abate.
It's Abate.
Oh, it is Abate.
So
all right,
Abate,
good to know. Whoop, sorry, guys.
Abate said he told, like, you can just imagine this. Okay, he told a group of all senior FBI officials, all the second in command, right, the whole group, everybody get together. Anyone who questioned the FBI's response or our decisions regarding it did not belong in the FBI and should find a different job, right? Says Director Abbott also told the assembled leadership that if they had an employee who did not agree with the FBI's response to J6, they could have that employee call him directly and he would set them straight. It's like, whoa, man. And I'm in favor of leaders of companies, and you got to set the tone and set the mood and all that stuff. But
they set a tone, all right.
They set a tone, and part of their job is to kind of investigate what was happening on January 6th. And
hope you feel better, brother.
We don't have an official number on how many undercover informants were there, but we covered the Proud Boy trial at length here. And in there, the defense team, they said, it never got admitted, but they said that they identified like 50 people. I think was the actual term they used, 50, and a big portion of those were HSI people and other people who were not a part of the FBI, but other agencies. And so I think it's perfectly reasonable to have questions about that. And of course, the FBI doesn't want you to even talk about it, not even come up with an alternative explanation for any of this. So
hopefully we got somebody ready to go on day one. Hopefully Cash can get confirmed before Trump is even in office by the 119th Congress. I think that is, or whoever's in the Senate at that point, the equivalent for the Senate. Let's jump over next to our next topic over here with a black conservative perspective as MSNBC fumes over FBI director folding to Trump after he quits to avoid getting exposed. Ruh-roh.
Kash Patel, the upcoming FBI director, if
sorry for the
confirmed, is on Capitol Hill.
Damn, what is going on today, man?
Your reaction to Reagan's resignation? We look forward to a very smooth transition at the FBI, and I'll be ready to go on day one.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let's go day one. Let's make it happen here. Wow, the quality's already at 480p. All right, let's try. Well, having an internet-based show when the internet is not working very well is not very effective. Sorry for the technical.
We look forward to a very smooth transition at the FBI, and I'll be ready to go on day one.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got some big news to talk about here. Maybe surprising, maybe not so surprising. As FBI Director Christopher Wray has fired himself, right? He has resigned due to the fact that Trump came out and said that, hey, Kash Patel is my guy. He's going to be the next director of.
Yeah, Monty, they do it all the time with everybody too. Like they take pictures of Trump and they alter the saturation of the photos to make him look orange by hypersaturating his skin. They did the same thing with Joe Rogan too. They took that video he released about throwing the kitchen sink at Koof, and they took the color out to make him look gray and sickly. These people are twisted, man.
The FBI, and Christopher Wray will be fired. So instead of going through the process of being fired, which would include a whole lot of scrutiny during the confirmation hearings of Kash Patel, instead of going through that process, Christopher Wray says, nah, I'm good, right? I'm basically going to tap out on this. I'm going to resign, basically paving the way for Kash Patel to take his spot.
Well, John, Christopher Wray, the FBI director, is making this announcement right now in an all-staff town hall with thousands of FBI employees.
Real quick, I forgot to mention earlier when Monty sent the article about Joe Biden pardoning and granting commutations to 1,500 people, he said that Biden has turned into the Oprah of pardons. You get a pardon. You get a pardon. You get a pardon. I thought that was hilarious.
Across the country, he says now is his time to go. As you mentioned, he has a 10-year term. All FBI directors do. He was 7 years into his 10-year term.
Max.
And realistically, he had two options. Wait to be fired by President-elect Donald Trump because Trump announced Kash Patel would take over, or bow out before. He has chosen to bow out before. Wray is a former Republican lawyer, former DOJ prosecutor here in Washington, D.C., hired by Trump in 2017 after Trump fired James Comey after the entire Russia investigation probe. And Wray pretty much stayed out of the headlines as much as he could, at least. But in 2022, former President Trump became increasingly angry when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago during the classified documents investigation. Of course, that was ordered by Attorney General Merrick Garland, who oversees the Justice Department, not Christopher Wray. But nonetheless, Christopher Wray saw the future and saw that it is his time to go. So he will be stepping down, as Kash Patel, the upcoming FBI director, if confirmed, is on Capitol Hill. So the director right now is making this announcement to an all-staff meeting. We're waiting to get some wording of some of his comments.
Yeah, see that you heard that. Now, of course, MSNBC is currently fuming. They're upset, they're mad, they're pissed that Christopher Wray decided to fold to Trump and to step down instead of having Trump fire him. Because again, it paves the way for Kash Patel to take that seat. And they are afraid that Kash Patel will do what Joe Biden did with the DOJ and the FBI
incoming.
And to weaponize the department to go after his political opponents, okay? AKA corrupt Democrats, right? They're afraid of this because of Kash Patel and his belief in right-wing conspiracies. Take a look.
The transition team is confident in Kash Patel and confident he will be ready to serve the American people on day one if he should be confirmed, which seems to be against the odds, David. Is there any doubt he will start taking some of those actions on day one?
Oh, I think there's no doubt. I mean, he has said the 2020 election was stolen. He has said the Trump-Russia investigation by Robert Mueller never should have been carried out.
True.
He's talked about, firing large groups of people. I've talked to people who he cites in his book for allegedly committing these deep state crimes, and they don't even understand what he's talking about.
Sure.
They seem more to be people who he disagrees with politically or people he's had bad interactions with earlier in his career.
Sure, just completely sidestep the entire context of the accusations by Kash and just give us the opinions of the accused without actually addressing the substance of the accusations at all. Who's this scumbag?
So I don't want to be too harsh here. It's up to the Senate. But I just want to emphasize the level of concern among current and former FBI officials that Kash Patel is the wrong person to run the FBI is very, very high. There are other appropriate directors that Trump could choose, or more appropriate people, more qualified, who don't.
You mean people that will go along with the deep state? No, we don't. That's why we don't want that. That's why we pick Kash. Fucking scumbag.
Use these deep state conspiracy theories who couldn't, I think, or they think serve the Trump administration well. But Kash Patel is alarming a lot of people.
David Rode, thank you.
Yeah, so what are these so-called conspiracy theories that the propagandists are so afraid of when it comes to Kash Patel and the things that he wants to investigate? Well, the conspiracy theories that Kash Patel wants to investigate are things that the American people actually really want to know about. Like, for example, where's all the money going to that we're sending to Ukraine, which is
Snarl Barky says, just a coincidence that the political opposition is guilty of criminal activity. Not political opponents, criminals. That's right. He doesn't want to go after illegals. He wants to go after, or doesn't want to go after immigrants. He wants to go after illegal immigrants. He didn't say the media is the enemy of the people. He said the fake news media is the enemy of the people. He's not going after political opponents. He's going after criminals. The criminals just so happen to be his opponents.
Something that Kash Patel has came out and said that, yeah, I would like to see an investigation into Congress and where we're sending this money to fund this war.
I've asked this Congress to investigate where has this money gone. The American people are owed that answer because it's our money. It's our taxpayer dollars.
And there's a lot of really good reason to be concerned because, the Ukraine was known as a, place of corruption, a place for money laundering.
Yeah. It's not like we sent $1 billion, as if that was even a small number to begin with, right? We've sent 100 times that to one country. I don't know how this Congress is allowed to get away with it. And
it's insane, and we're not even their ally, man. This is rampant criminality, a money laundering operation, in my opinion. Everybody needs to be investigated. Everybody needs to be tried. Everybody involved needs to be prosecuted and due processed right to a rope, in my opinion. Due process, FBI's asshole, fuck you.
Zelensky is out there. He went on the world stage and said Russia fired a rocket into Poland, which would literally be an act of war. Well, it turned out that Russia fired no such rocket. It turned out that the rocket came from the Ukraine and was fired into Poland.
And it was a mistake, basically.
If Zelensky's going to go out there and beg the world for more money and come to the U.S. and sit in the well of our Congress and say, we want more money, and then call and demand the new Speaker of the House provide more and more money, and call Mitch McConnell and say, we need more and more machinery, he needs to be more prepared about global statements that bring us to the precipice of war than doing what he did last fall with this missile attack, or this missile launch, I should say. And we just can't have full faith and trust by giving a leader $100 billion and having him say, I'm not telling you where the money went.
Right, yeah. Speaking of Zuckerberg 6, and then yesterday, Facebook was censoring Donald Trump again. They put a warning, violent or graphic content label on Trump's post just responding to Christopher Wray's resignation. We read through it. There was nothing violent or graphic in that. It's fucking text. And they censored it. You need to click to say, I'm aware that this content may be graphic or violent, and then you can see the post. So yeah, Facebook needs to be obliterated as well. Antitrust action, investigations, prosecutions with the new FTC head should happen, hopefully immediately.
Accountability, right? Which is something that the Democrats and the liberal media, they seem to be allergic to, right? Anytime Trump puts somebody in charge that says, hey, we're going to hold Democrats accountable, okay? We're going to hold liberals accountable. We're going to hold the liberal media accountable. Oh, no, we can't have that, right? That's a terrible and dangerous thing. He's a right-wing conspiracy theorist.
It would be a start,
It's almost
6.
as if these people have something to hide, right? If you have nothing to hide, then why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid? But the truth is, we do know they have things to hide, which is kind of the reason why Christopher Wray decided to resign rather than to just be fired by Trump.
January 6th. Did I misunderstand you? I thought that's what you said.
Well, I referred very specifically to undercover agents.
Yeah. And so are you acknowledging then there were undercover agents?
As I sit here right now, I do not believe there were undercover agents on scene.
Any
FBI
assets?
agents.
Did you have any assets present that day?
Perjury.
In the crowd.
When it comes to what you're calling assets.
Or I don't know if this is perjury can be committed here, but if he's under oath, man, this is straight up perjury.
Or
in
what
my
we
opinion.
would call confidential human sources. That's a place where, again, I want to be careful, much as I said in response to an earlier question. There are court filings that I think speak to this that I'm happy to make sure we get to you, assuming they're not under seal. And that can better answer the question than I can as I sit here right now. No, I don't know the answer to that question, but I can tell you that we don't investigate people for their exercise of their constitutionally protected religious expression. That's
bullshit. Bullshit. You sent people to arrest people, to investigate people during COVID for religious stuff, for going to school board meetings, talking about how it was against their religions to be putting porn for kids in school libraries, etc. You were harassing these people because of their religious beliefs.
particular intelligence product is something that as soon as I saw it, I was aghast. I had it withdrawn.
Really, you were aghast?
I was.
Oh, really? And
Yes,
what
sir.
have you done about it? Did you fire the people who wrote it?
No, I had it withdrawn.
Have you fired anybody involved in it?
Senator, if you would give me a chance to answer
That's a
your
yes or a
question.
no. It's not hard. Have you fired anyone involved in the writing of that outrageous memo, about which, frankly, you've repeatedly misled the public? Yes or no?
The individuals involved in that
Have you
product
fired
were
anyone?
not, just a minute.
You haven't done a darn thing. You haven't fired anybody. In fact, what the House found is, what is it? You admonished them. They were admonished. And their respective supervisors were told to engage with the Human Resources Division to ensure that deficiencies are addressed. Oh, well, I feel much better. They've been sent to bed without food. Good heavens, Director. This is one of the most outrageous targetings. You have mobilized your division, the most powerful law enforcement division in the world, against traditionalist Catholics, whatever the heck that means. And you just told us you have not fired a single person.
You know, many people like to point out that Christopher Wray was appointed by Trump. Christopher Wray is a member of Permanent Washington who doesn't like to discuss anything, including why his agents concocted a plan to kidnap the governor of Michigan, or how many FBI agents were active on January 6th. The FBI gets away with all this because they are permanent fixtures in Washington, as is your national media.
Because as the propagandists on MSNBC are going to admit that if Christopher Wray had stayed in that spot as FBI director during the confirmation hearings, then he would have to endure a whole lot of scrutiny about the current FBI.
Although he may be in there, if he doesn't resign until January 20th, he may still be in there as the confirmation hearings are occurring if they're taking place in the Senate before Trump actually gets into office. So it could put the FBI's current leadership under scrutiny still, because he didn't resign yet. He said that he's going to be leaving office when the new president comes in. So let's continue. Come on, Internet.
So I think that Chris Wray was trying to say, look, I'm currently going to serve out the time that the current president, President Biden, wants me here. I'm going to serve that out. But he doesn't want to drag the FBI or himself through a sort of confirmation hearing for the next FBI director, where he and his conduct and the FBI's conduct would be one of the things under scrutiny. Having said all that, I'm not sure that's, as Anthony said just a moment ago, I'm not sure that is the better call here. If the FBI did something right or wrong, it should be subject to scrutiny. That's not something that should be hidden from the American people. If Chris Wray himself has done things right or wrong, that also is something that should be the subject of hearings.
Should be scrutinized.
And I think the damage of what Chris Wray is doing is that it undermines the congressional intent that, but for there being cause, that an FBI director is apolitical.
Yeah, I got bad news, right? I got bad news for Andrew Weissman, the very, very, very zesty propagandist on MSNBC. The credibility of the FBI has already been undermined in the eyes of the American people. Okay, one of the reasons why the American people overwhelmingly approve of Trump's transition, even though the media has went out of their way to smear almost every Trump nominee, right? They've done nothing but talk about Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK and Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz. They've tried their best to smear almost everybody in Trump's cabinet, the American people still approve.
President, a majority of Americans, 54%, say they expect him to do a good job as president. And we asked specifically, do you have confidence in all of these areas about how Trump will perform and his ability to handle it? And once again, as we saw throughout the campaign, the economy is issue number one of his strength.
Real quick, just make sure to go subscribe to Black Conservative Patriot on YouTube. Nobody works harder than Greg Foreman on the scene, and in the libertarian media sphere. This dude works hard. He puts together all these great clips. Make sure to give him support and go subscribe to him on YouTube. And I think he's on Rumble also. I got to start watching him on Rumble.
65%, 2/3 of Americans in this poll say they have some or a lot of confidence in Trump's ability to manage and handle the economy as president. And you see Russia, Ukraine followed there, then immigration, and his leadership skills, his what he intends to use his power for, whether that'll be responsibly not, a bit lower. But again, all of this is majority support. So that is where things stand right now.
And the reason why is because institutions like the FBI, the American people have lost trust and faith in those institutions. And
we got CNN calling out the all-time low level of trust for the FBI here. This one dude, remember the chick said that, oh man, this guy scares me on CNN. The guy is always talking about the polls and the figures.
And they are looking for the change that Trump has promised. Take a look.
Patel has real reason to believe that Americans would go along with changes that he might potentially make at the FBI. And there's a reason why Donald Trump feels like he can make this change. It's because if you look here, FBI is doing an excellent or good job. Look at this time trend line. You go back to 2014, right? It was 59% of Americans, then 57% in 2019, 50% in 2022. Look at where we are today. My goodness gracious.
It's almost Fibonacci numbers, a golden spiral of acceleration. Look, it goes down by 2, goes down by 7, goes down by 9. Brutal. Every time they do the poll, it gets the approval drops by a higher and higher ratio as we accelerate towards total distrust of the feds.
Just 41% of Americans think the FBI is doing an excellent or good job. That is by far the lowest number this century. The bottom line is, during the Trump administration, obviously there were the investigations into Donald Trump. You saw a little bit of drop then, and then post January 6th, look at that drop, 50%, now 41%. My goodness gracious, Kate Baldwin.
I think one thing about this, hard to gauge, right? I'll call it a chicken or an egg kind of question. Is the view declining because is it from bottom up or top down? Is it because people are talking trash about the FBI more and more, or because Americans' views of distrust of the agency are?
All right, I got another chicken and the egg question for you, lady. Are you stupid? Because you were born stupid, or because you're in the controlled corporate media cartel news environment that's induced secondary stupidity for you? Is it the chicken or the egg?
Are growing. It's something it's hard, that is hard to know. But I throw that out there by asking then, how does it break down along party lines?
Yeah, take a look at Republicans. Here we go. Look at this drop. If you thought
geez.
Oh, geez. Oh, geez, that's a very good word, Kate Baldwin. If you look,
2 words.
It's 2 words. The G's was what I was going for. Geez Louise, there's 2 words right there. Among Republicans, is the FBI doing an excellent or good job? This is where you really see the drop off. You go back to 2014, I'm going to come to your side of the screen, it was 62%. 2019, look at that, 46%. 2022, 29%. Now we're tied for the lowest point at this century among Republicans at 26%. That is a drop of more than half since 2014. So again, you saw some of that drop during the Trump administration. Obviously he replaced James Comey. And then you see it really after January 6th, 29%, and now 26%. That is a tremendous, tremendous drop-off among Republicans.
So let's remember that number, and then let's talk about Democrats.
Yeah, remember this number, and remember this trend line, this downward trend line. Among Democrats, it's just...
Anytime anybody ever says tremendous from now into ad infinitum, it automatically makes me think of Donald Trump. Tremendous.
Not the same story at all All right. Among Democrats, it was 54% in 2014. Then you saw that number shoot up to 66% in 2019. Then look at this. 79% in 2022.
Love it, Wood
We have
Geek.
seen some drop off since then to 67%, but that is still significantly higher than it was in 2014 at 54%. The bottom line is this. If Republicans have become much less trusting of the FBI, Democrats have become more trusting, though the number who trust it now, who think it's doing an excellent or good job.
Democrats have become more trusting. Can you imagine how stupid these people are? Oh my God, bro. That's so brutal. It's beyond brutality. It's it's a babality at this point if we're talking in Mortal Kombat terms. Fatality, brutality, babality.
Is lower than it was 2 years ago, and that is why we have the lowest percentage this century of Americans overall who believe the FBI is doing an excellent or good job.
And you can assume that, especially amongst Republicans and people who voted for Donald Trump this cycle, that trend could carry across many. Just distrust in institutions in general seems to be growing, and that was a large part of this election.
That was a very large part of this election. It's a very large part of why I think Donald Trump believes that he can go ahead and make big changes to the government, and the American public, and especially Republicans, will go right along with him.
Great to see.
Finish him. Donald Trump wins.
Gary,
oh yeah.
Yeah, and he's right.
Boom. So good to see people, at least the awake half of the country, realizing that these institutions are corrupt to the core. Let's jump over to our next topic from the Zero Hedge. Government spending shock. U.S. budget deficit soars in worst start to year on record. Ruh-roh. Let's take a look at the chart. The surge in spending was driven primarily by higher spending on health, defense, and Social Security, but mostly a huge $50 billion spike on Medicare outlays. This is freaking bananas, just the amount of money that they're wasting right now, looting us on their way out. Look at this, $624 billion deficit for October and November, worst start to a year on record. Shows that in October and November, the U.S. deficit exploded to a staggering $624.2 billion. And even though this included several calendar adjustments, which explains the freak September surplus, which, as we said, was due to calendar effects, the November deficit of $367 billion was $14 billion more than consensus estimates of $353 billion. Weiss. Combining October and November, we find that not only was the combined number of $624 billion some 64% higher than the corresponding period 1 year ago, but it was the highest deficit on record for the first 2 months of the year, and that includes the spending insanity during the COVID crisis. Wow. Yeah, high spending on embezzlement. That sounds about right, Trop. Oh, man. Oh, I missed the pause pick. I'm glad you liked it, though, Dirk. Putting the deficit in context, the budget deficit in October and November, the first 2 months of fiscal 2025 are now officially the worst start to a year for the U.S. Treasury on record. Thanks, Obama, because it's really, of course, Obama who's the president right now. But in a little bit of better news, that's right. At 6, the CIA spies on us. The CDC hates us. They just don't care. And I agree. Whistling P-hole. Love that name. Elon has to fire 94% of the government before the iRobots can come in. Change my mind. Hilarious. Breaking. President Trump announces Kari Lake will serve as director of Voice of America. Lake responds, didn't Tucker's dad used to run Voice of America, which is effectively like the propaganda outlet to push the American perspective, according to the government, on foreign nations? Maybe this is indicative of a new stance of honesty between the American government and foreign governments and people, as we bring in Kari Lake to start telling people the truth around the world about what's really going on. This could be a really positive development. President Trump has announced that Kari Lake will serve as director of Voice of America. Lake, one of Trump's greatest allies and a broadcast news veteran who walked away from her 27-year career as a nightly news anchor in protest of the COVID-19 and 2020 election let's end the YouTube broadcast before we continue reading this sentence. All right, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, sorry to have to leave you in the dust, but come and join us on Rumble and X as we continue, where the water is warm and we can speak freely. We all float down here on Alt Tech, baby. So come join us if you can't make it. We'll be back tomorrow for more Common Censored, but we will be continuing for another couple hours over here on Rumble and X. So join us like the info infantry. Join or die. Joking about that last part, but we'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, let's get ready to rumble.